two young women and a man traverse through a laboratory. The girl on the left is Inumami-chan, distinguished by her animal ears, while the girl on the right is Elf-chan, another slave accompanying them. Elf-chan is among the elves' flat-chested slaves under their master, who happens to be the sole user of a cheat job in the hero's world. As they explore, Inumami detects enemies nearby. A blue slime, the weakest creature in the world with a threat level of 1, due to its feeble water resistance technique. With swift precision, their master swiftly dispatches the slime in a matter of seconds. Both slaves erupt in jubilation, thoroughly impressed by their master's prowess in combat. Each vies to outdo the other in praising their master's swordsmanship, inadvertently sparking a silent competition to win favor as his favorite. Their interactions hint at a subtle rivalry, with each striving to gain the upper hand through their words. Meanwhile, their master, unaware of the underlying competition, assumes that his slaves are fostering a strong bond with one another. With the defeat of the blue slime, the first chapter draws to a close, setting the stage for further adventures and dynamics between the characters. The master and his slaves find themselves in the labyrinth city of Blue Tier. Here, many humans venture into dungeons to gather monster drops, which they then sell to sustain themselves. Similarly, the master enters a shop to sell the mana stones he collected after defeating the blue slime. While the master conducts his business, his two slaves wait in the designated slave waiting room. Elf-chan indulges in jerky, savoring each bite, while Inumami observes with interest. Tempted by the aroma, Inumami asks Elf-chan for a taste, but Elf-chan refuses, more concerned about their shared earnings from the master. Some masters withhold money from their slaves, making them particularly appreciative of the weekly allowance they receive. Inumami-chan opens up about her situation, explaining that she allocates all her earnings to support her family. She is the elder sister of 8 siblings. If she doesn't work as a slave, her siblings will likely end up in the same predicament. Despite this, Elf-chan appears indifferent to Inumami's plight, focusing solely on her jerky. With this exchange, Chapter 2 draws to a close, hinting at the differing priorities and dynamics between the two slaves. Elf remains indifferent to Inumami's family struggles, continuing to enjoy her meat despite previously claiming to be an elf who cannot consume it. This inconsistency frustrates Inumami, prompting her to voice her discontent. Their argument escalates, drawing the attention of other customers in the shop. Observing the slave's defiance, the customers question how their master tolerates such rebellious behavior. Just as tensions peak, the master arrives, instantly shifting the atmosphere. Inumami and Elf quickly adopt obedient personas, expressing their joy at his return. The sudden transformation surprises the onlookers, who marvel at the slave's ability to seamlessly switch from defiance to obedience in the presence of their master. With the master's arrival, the conflict dissipates, and the trio departs from the shop. Inumami and Elf, now relieved from the tension, eagerly anticipate indulging in some food. Thus, Chapter 3 concludes by highlighting the complex dynamics between the slaves and their master, as well as the facade they maintain in his presence. The trio finds a house for rent at 8,000 of the local currency, where one call equals 10 yen. The master worries that his slaves won't like the house due to his limited earnings, which prevents him from affording a better place. However, both slaves see this as an opportunity to lift their master's spirits. They compete to become his favorites, striving to cheer him up and seize every chance to do so. Each time they succeed, their master blushes and feels uplifted. Despite being unbeatable thanks to his cheating power, the master is scared of fighting big monsters and dislikes it. His timidity reflects the ongoing struggles of the slaves. Inumami and Elf join their master in the shower, engaging in intimate gestures to please him. Elf presses her breasts against his body, eliciting pleasure, while Inumami, emboldened by her larger chest, embraces him from behind, rubbing her chest against his back. Both slaves strive to satisfy their master, seeking his approval and feedback on their actions. Elf asserts her appeal, emphasizing the softness of her smaller chest, initiating a rivalry with Inumami. Determined to outdo each other in pleasing their master, they escalate their efforts, vigorously rubbing their chests against his back in a fast-paced competition. Their fervent competition results in discomfort and minor injuries, prompting them to question whether acquiring a busty slave would better serve their master's preferences. As neither Inumami nor Elf possesses particularly large chests, they ponder the possibility of bringing in someone who can fulfill their master's desires. With this exchange, Chapter 5 concludes, highlighting the competitive dynamic between the two slaves and their desire to fulfill their master's wishes. After their shower, the two slaves notice their master's extensive collection of underwear in the wardrobe. They lament over his continuous purchases, believing that if he spent less on underwear, they could be living in better accommodations. Inumami examines one piece of underwear, finding it uncomfortable due to its thin straps, and jokingly labels the master a pervert. Amidst their exploration, they come across some new clothes, sparking casual conversation. They comment on their master's physical appearance, noting his receding hairline and expanding stomach, contrasting it with his strength. Their discussion devolves into complaints about his lack of household chores, including his inability to do the dishes and the unpleasant smell of his pillow in the morning. Despite their grievances, gossiping about their master seems to be the only topic that unites Inumami and Elf. They find solace in sharing their frustrations about his quirks and shortcomings, bonding over their shared experiences as his slaves. Elf and Inumami slip into seductive bed attire, as their master summons them to join him. With anticipation in the air, he caresses them tenderly before engaging in intimate relations with both slaves. In the throes of passion, Elf and Inumami revel in their connection with their master, considering him the epitome of a perfect master. After their encounter, they nestle together in bed, with their master resting between them. As they drift off to sleep, thoughts of the pleasurable experience linger in their minds. With contentment filling their hearts, they reflect on the gratification of their intimate union with their beloved master, capturing the intimate bond between the master and his devoted slaves. The master kills a monster and an elf, and Inumami feels good about how strong they are. In the meantime, the elf gets a strange feeling and tells others about it, and his master suggests she might have leveled up. He tells her to check her card, which shows Job Slave. Level 2 with an upward arrow sign from 1 means she leveled up by 1. Health 11 leveled up by 1. Strength 6 is leveled up by 0. Intelligence 24 leveled up by 2. Wisdom 18 was leveled up by 1. And skill points were also leveled up by 1. Then Inumami taunts Elf by saying that she is already on level 2, as she is better than Elf. On the back of the card, there were skills available that she could learn, like Fire Magic Basic Level, Water Magic Basic Level, Air Magic Basic Level, Swordsmanship, and others. Then Elf asks his master after listening to him about any skill that can grow chest size, and the master denies that there is any such skill, which gives Elf depression, and Inumami is happy because she has a bigger chest. After their conversation, the master gathered the stones and stumbled upon a mysterious box containing a unique skill reserved for those of royal bloodlines. As he grasped the box, its size inexplicably shrank to fit within the palm of his hand, leaving the slaves utterly fascinated. With the day drawing to a close, they decided to call it quits, but an unexpected encounter awaited them. A monstrous figure loomed before them, a towering bird with a threat level of 3, standing at a mere 50 centimeters tall, known for its ill temper and notorious as the Rookie Killer. This avian terror was a formidable presence even on the early floors of the dungeon. Inumami and Elf exchanged glances, acknowledging that, despite not being a slime, the creature posed a lower level of danger and could be dispatched with relative ease. However, their master's fear was palpable as he launched a series of feeble attacks, trembling with each strike until the creature finally fell. Disheartened by their master's display of timidity in the face of such a minor threat, the slaves felt their motivation wane. Yet, bound by their professionalism, they knew they couldn't afford to let this setback deter them. They exchanged words of encouragement, reminding him of his potential and the swiftness of his movements, which had been too quick for them to follow. With renewed determination, they pressed onward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, bolstered by the knowledge that their master's skills were more than a match for any adversary, no matter how small or intimidating. After defeating the monstrous bird, its remains were inexplicably transformed into neatly packaged chicken meat. The master, perplexed by the unexpected development, couldn't help but question the strangeness of finding packaged meat in the depths of the dungeon. His slaves exchanged puzzled glances, finding his doubts rather peculiar. It was yet another enigma added to the myriad mysteries of their world, where the bizarre seemed to become commonplace with each passing day. Despite the master's uncertainty, they pressed on, their hunger growing as they made their way back from the dungeon depths. Finally, as evening descended, they sat down to a meal, the tantalizing aroma of cooking filling the air. Together, they shared in the simple pleasure of food, their minds momentarily set at ease by the comforting dinner ritual. Yet beneath the surface, the mysteries of their world continued to linger, waiting to be unraveled in the days to come. The elf greets the audience and asks if anyone has any unusual experiences to share. She then proceeds to share her own experience. Today, the elf and her master shop for food items, while Inumami-chan stays home. Leading the way to the market, the elf enjoys the time spent alone with her master. They carefully selected food worth 30 of the local currency and a bag of flour. Suddenly, the master becomes lost in thought, and upon noticing his distraction, the elf asks about his well-being. His response, "Ingredient is part that requires a cooking sense," leaves her unsettled, as it implies he lacks cooking skills. Lastly, it is revealed that the master possesses a grade B active skill, the ability to assess the value of items and creatures. As the elf and the master continue their exploration of the shopping market, the observant elf can't help but notice a peculiar pattern. Every vendor seems to offer the master a 10% discount. Puzzled, the elf questions the master's seemingly charmed interactions, suggesting they could be a result of some form of subtle manipulation or brainwashing. However, the master calmly responds, "Perhaps they appreciate my demeanor." Unbeknownst to the elf, the true reason lies in the master's possession of a unique skill known as discount, which grants him a 10% reduction on purchases from any store. After returning home, the master decides to cook the chicken meat he obtained from slaying the bird monster. Inumami-chan eagerly indulges in the meal, savoring the delicious taste of the chicken. As she compliments how the chicken is crisp on the outside and tender on the inside, the elf, despite her inherent aversion to meat as an elf, finds herself unable to resist trying it. Expressing her delight, the elf remarks that, while she's had katsudon before, this karaage is exceptionally tasty, assuming that must be the name of the meat dish. Curious about the recipe, she queries the master about its origins. He reveals that it hails from his homeland, an eastern country. Upon hearing this, both the elf and the slave see it as an opportunity to impress him. The master elaborates, explaining that the blue tier where they reside marks the easternmost point on the world map. This eastern country is renowned for its mystical knowledge. He further enlightens them about a famous sauce in his homeland called mayonnaise, known for its exceptional flavor. Promising to make it next time if given the chance, he leaves them intrigued and eager to learn more about his culture and culinary traditions. Inumami-chan is engrossed in reading a letter, while the elf watches with growing curiosity. Sensing the intrigue, the elf asks Inumami about the letter, to which she responds that it's from the children of her hometown, but she prefers not to share its contents. This refusal only serves to heighten the elf's curiosity. Unable to contain herself, the elf begins to playfully touch Inumami's tail, knowing it to be a sensitive spot. In the process, the letter slips from Inumami's grasp, and the elf takes a peek at its contents. The letter reads, "Dear sister, has the male slave made you do anything strange? Your sisters are concerned, so we've sent your favorite snack. Please eat it and take care of yourself." Upon reading the letter, the elf feels a pang of sadness and returns it to Inumami, respecting her privacy. She reassures Inumami that her sisters care deeply about her, prompting a proud smile from Inumami, who appreciates her sister's love. Suddenly, the elf remembers the snacks Inumami received from her hometown and notices a package on the floor. Excitedly, she opens it, only to find grasshoppers inside. As the grasshoppers start flying around the house, the elf, frustrated and bewildered, asks Inumami if she eats grasshoppers before ultimately fainting from the shock. The elf and Inumami are enjoying grasshoppers that arrived as a snack from Inumami's hometown. Inumami casually asks if the elf was too rich to eat grasshoppers, to which the elf, munching on a grasshopper, responds that she was indeed poor. But even then, she never had to resort to eating grasshoppers. As they continue their conversation and snack on the unusual treat, they both grow comfortable. Inumami then broaches the topic of how the elf became a slave. The elf explains that although she was poor, she wasn't in debt, leading her to recount her memories. Now we delve into the elf's memories from 3 months ago. The village's name was Normal Village, nestled in a cold climate blanketed with snow. This village served as an elven settlement, situated 600 kilometers northeast of the labyrinth city of New Tyr. Enduring harsh winters, the town remained enveloped in snow for more than half of the year, making survival a challenging feat. In her flashback, the elf recalls the difficulties she faced while searching for food in the mountains, finding no fruits or vegetables to sustain herself. As her memories unfold, she finds herself seated in her old home, absorbed in a book. At that moment, she wished passionately not to die in that desolate place. Continuing Elf Chan's memory, a girl knocks on Elf's door, holding some red dishes for Elf Chan. Her name is Bestie San, Elf San's childhood friend. Elf Chan doesn't seem particularly happy with her presence. However, Bestie San explained that she wanted to bring something sweet, but unfortunately, it was not available at her home. Despite Elf Chan's initial reluctance, she eventually invites Bestie San in for some tea. Elf Chan has a knack for identifying pleasant smells and herbs. In their normal village, all the elves are of the same age, making it a lively and enjoyable environment for them. Sensing Bestie San's sadness, Elf Chan asks about what's wrong. Bestie San confesses that she wants to spend her entire life with Elf Chan, which deeply touches Elf Chan, making her realize how much Bestie San loves her. Then, unexpectedly, Bestie San starts massaging her shoulders, explaining that she's been feeling pain there recently. As she massages, her large breasts inadvertently become more prominent, shocking Elf Chan. Elf and Bestie Chan engage in a casual conversation, during which Elf questions the idea of leaving the village. Bestie Chan responds by expressing her satisfaction with village life, emphasizing its comfort. She compliments Elf Chan's attire and lovely accent, but reminds her of the difficulties associated with leaving the village. According to village rules, departure is prohibited, and those who attempt it face severe consequences, such as the confiscation of their land and a pitiful existence. In Normal Village, there's an unspoken envy towards city dwellers, but Elf Chan expresses her desire to break free from the monotony of village life. Despite acknowledging the inconvenience it would cause her mother, Elf Chan yearns for change, desiring to turn her dreams into reality. Bestie San encourages her, suggesting that the mayor's reign won't last forever, and Elf Chan can eventually pursue her dreams. It's common knowledge in the village that elves live for around 500 years, a factor that influences their perspectives and decisions regarding their future. As their conversation deepens, they both contemplate the possibilities that lie beyond the confines of their village, fueling their aspirations for a brighter future. While Elf Chan and Bestie San are deep in conversation, Elf Chan's mom suddenly arrives at the door and urgently instructs Elf to hide. Confused by the situation, Elf Chan complies, but before she can fully grasp what's happening, a burly figure barges into their home. It's a member of the Pig Ear tribe, and he grabs Elf Chan's mother by the neck, lifting her in a fit of rage. They are there to search for young elves. It's revealed that Elf's country has been conquered by the Pig Ear tribe's country, and now they seek to profit by selling young elves as slaves. The invaders thoroughly search the house, catching Bestie San and locking her hands before taking her away with them. Elf Chan manages to hide under the bed, evading the pig's search. It's a grim reality that those who become slaves in wartime are termed war slaves, while others, like Inumami, are classified as dead slaves. Bestie San's hands are locked, and the pig expresses satisfaction that he has found a valuable slave who will fetch a good price. Meanwhile, Elf Chan's mother intervenes, revealing that she is from the neighboring house. The pig responds by stating his intention to take her to slave traders in the Labyrinth City, where they will fetch a good price for her. The enigmatic Blue Tier City serves as the world leader in the slave trade, offering various types of slaves, including domestic, labor, and sex slaves. It's a place where slaves are treated as mere commodities. Elf listens intently from her hiding spot under the bed, intrigued by the mention of the Labyrinth City, which offers fashion, clothes, and delicious food, a stark contrast to her mundane village life. The pig elaborates that elven slaves are considered luxury items and predicts that Bestie San will be sold to a wealthy buyer. Upon hearing this, Elf Chan emerges from her hiding spot, confronting the pigs and asking if they will make her a slave too. Confused, the pigs are unsure how to proceed, while Elf Chan's mother and Bestie San look on in shock. The narrative shifts to the present, with Elf narrating how she became a slave. Inumami responds, acknowledging her uniqueness in the situation. The master celebrates with great excitement for the upcoming new year, expressing his enthusiasm for costumes and props. He eagerly suggests that it's time for everyone to dress up and join in the festivities. However, Elf and Inumami, his two slaves, are puzzled by the concept, as they've never celebrated the new year before. The master proceeds to explain the customs and rituals of his hometown in the eastern countryside. He mentions a tradition called Haim Hajime, which signifies the first intercourse of the year. Both Elf and Inumami's excitement diminishes upon hearing this, realizing that the new year holds no significant change for them. It's morning, and the master prepares breakfast for himself and the slaves. Today's menu consists of bean soup, sheep milk, and rye bread, reflecting the constraints of the master's limited earnings. Inumami and Elf Chan have grown tired of the repetitive breakfast. Inumami longs for something savory, while Elf Chan, as always, yearns for meat, but is unable to indulge due to her elven nature. Noticing the discontentment of his slaves, the master informs them that he will be working extra hours today, resulting in his late return home. Sensing their sadness over the breakfast situation, he prompts them to share their concerns. Seizing the opportunity to demonstrate their professionalism as slaves, Inumami and Elf Chan express their appreciation for the master's dedication to working extra hours. They also wonder if it will lead to a different activity, perhaps not a slime hunt this time. As the master bids them farewell and leaves the house, Inumami and Elf Chan exchange knowing looks of sarcasm. Elf Chan then asks if Inumami shares her thoughts, confirming that they both intend to deviate from their roles as slaves today. Instead, they plan to act as detectives, keeping a close eye on the master's movements throughout the day. As the day progresses, Inumami and Elf don their detective attire, consisting of caps and coats to conceal themselves from the master, and stealthily follow his footsteps. They observe him entering a guild, prompting Elf Chan to express her bewilderment to Inumami. She finds it odd that the master, who usually appears clumsy and idle, is now engaging in work. It feels as if the sky has fallen for them, given his usual behavior of snacking and clumsiness. Upon entering the hall, Inumami observes the master engaged in a battle with his sword. She shares her observation with Elf Chan, suggesting that they might have misjudged the master. They speculate that perhaps the reason he avoids fighting creatures other than slimes is to protect them. Elf Chan further theorizes that he may not want to reveal his desperate side to them, which could explain his early departure from home that day. As they ponder, both Inumami and Elf Chan envision the master fighting a dragon monster, looking strong with his six-pack abs and sweating profusely. Both of them harbor deep affection for the master in this heroic form, indicating their desire for him to appear strong and capable. Continuing from the previous chapter, the master is inside the guild, engaging in conversation with the receptionist. Both Inumami and Elf Chan, curious slaves, question whether he truly receives quests from the guild, as they had assumed. However, as they observe, the receptionist, with her voluptuous figure and ample chest, appears to recognize the master, indicating that he has visited the guild numerous times before. The receptionist inquires how she can assist him, to which the master explains that he is there to purchase a mana stone. Mana stones are items with a high drop rate from monsters and serve various essential purposes, such as providing light in lamps, fueling kitchen stoves, and supplying water for bathrooms. Due to their indispensable nature, the guild always has them in stock for sale. Upon hearing this, Elf Chan and Inami-san discuss amongst themselves why the master would choose to purchase mana stones from the guild instead of obtaining them from dungeons, and why he is spending money on them. The receptionist, hearing him, informs the master of the price of the mana stones. However, taking into account the master's skill that grants him a 10% discount whenever he makes a purchase, she decides to offer him a discount as well, citing the pleasant weather as an additional reason. Satisfied with the discount, the master leaves the guild and departs, with Inumami and Elf Chan discreetly following behind, continuing their surveillance. After turning back, he re-enters the guild and encounters the receptionist once again. She inquires how she can assist him this time, to which he responds by expressing his desire to sell a mana stone. The receptionist, taken aback, questions whether he is certain about selling the mana stone he had recently purchased. As the transaction progresses, the receptionist remarks on the pleasant weather and offers him a little extra, unaware that the master possesses a skill called premium rank, enabling him to sell items for 10% more. Meanwhile, Inumami and Elf discreetly observe from behind a wall, absorbing the master's activities. To their surprise, the master repeatedly buys and sells the same mana stone. With each purchase, the receptionist grants him a 10% discount, and with each sale, she adds 10% extra, ultimately resulting in a profit for the master. By capitalizing on this strategy multiple times, he amasses a considerable sum of money by morning. Inumami, feeling a sense of awkwardness from witnessing the master's scheme, suggests to Elf that this may be his extra job. She advises against delving further into the matter, emphasizing that some things are better left unknown. With this realization, they acknowledge the complexities of the world and the wisdom in avoiding certain truths. Master returns home to a warm welcome from Inumami and Elf, who greet him with enthusiasm. Surprised by their excitement, he questions what they are up to. Inumami and Elf exchange glances and whisper to each other, silently agreeing not to reveal that they followed him that day. After changing his attire, the master informs them that he has gone shopping and will be preparing the evening meal. Elf, with a smile, remarks that his job seems to be paying well. As dinner is served, they find themselves presented with delicious steak, accompanied by a homemade BBQ sauce inspired by the master's eastern country. Eagerly, Elf expresses her joy at being able to enjoy such a flavorful meal, a rare treat for a slave accustomed to simpler fare. Moved by Elf's happiness, the master affectionately pats her head, acknowledging her hard work and deserving of the special meal. However, Inumami raises a concern, questioning whether consuming the meat would make them accomplices. Elf hesitates, uncertain if it would constitute a crime. In this dilemma, the slaves find themselves torn between their desire to enjoy the meal and the ethical implications of their actions, as the master arrives with plates in hand, urging them not to be shy and to indulge in the meal. The slaves grapple with their conflicting thoughts and emotions. Uncertain of the right course of action, they ponder the consequences of their decisions, even as they are urged to partake in the feast before them. As night falls, Elf arrives for her nightly duty, finding her master sitting naked on the bed, awaiting her. Despite his relaxed demeanor, she finds him irresistibly cute tonight. As she approaches, he lazily begins to touch her, starting with her breasts. Elf responds with soft moans of pleasure as his hands explore her hips and the sensitive areas between her legs, sending electrifying sensations coursing through her body. Soon, they are entwined in passionate intimacy, their naked bodies pressed together as they share kisses. After their encounter, Elf basks in the aftermath of pleasure as her master drifts off to sleep beside her. A contented smile graces her lips as she ponders the inexplicable pull she feels towards him. Lost in thought, she considers the possibility of him possessing a cheat skill granted by a divine entity. Such a skill, she muses, could override one's will, compelling them with overwhelming desire. Glancing at her sleeping master, Elf silently questions him in her mind, wondering if he has been subjected to any form of manipulation. However, the master slumbers peacefully, unaware of her inner turmoil. With a sigh, Elf resigns herself to the mysteries surrounding their connection, content in the moment as she drifts off to sleep beside him. It's morning, and Elf and Inumami are peacefully enjoying their breakfast when their master announces his intention to purchase a new slave. Startled, both drop their food in shock and demand an explanation for the sudden decision. The master's reasoning that their workload needs balancing is met with skepticism from the two slaves, who recognize it as a thinly veiled excuse. They know all too well that their small breast sizes are the real reason behind the master's desire for a new addition to their household. Despite their protests, the master insists that acquiring a new slave will alleviate their workload and create new synergies within the group. He attempts to mask his true intentions by suggesting that a new slave with larger breasts will bring benefits to all of them. Though he falters briefly, coughing to cover his thoughts, he remains determined to build a harem and seeks to increase his enjoyment with a slave possessing bigger and firmer breasts. In the end, the master's excitement to acquire a busty new slave is palpable, leaving Elf and Inumami resigned to the inevitable changes that lie ahead. Despite their misgivings, they know they have little choice but to accept their master's decision and adapt to the new dynamics within their household. As Master, Inumami and Elf set out to search for a new slave, Master happily hums a tune to himself. Elf leans into Inumami and remarks on how noticeable it is that Master has a fascination with large things. Every time the topic of big breasts arises, his reactions are noticeably different, displaying a mix of desperation and happiness. Inumami listens attentively as Elf expresses her observations. Curiosity piqued, Inumami questions Elf about the possibility of the new slave rendering them obsolete. Elf responds calmly, her expression betraying no emotion, stating matter-of-factly that they would likely be sold to the next master as used slaves. In this world, the value of a slave diminishes with each exchange, leading to a downward spiral in living standards and resale prices. Those deemed no longer useful to their masters often end up in prostitution slums, a fate considered the lowest existence for a slave. Elf continues, expressing concern for Inumami, noting that it would be her third time facing such a situation. She reflects on the rarity of slaves being freed from their masters, usually under extreme circumstances. Inumami's anxiety is palpable, prompting Elf to realize she may have been too insensitive in her remarks. However, Inumami assures her it's fine, acknowledging the possibility of it happening to her. Feeling a sense of responsibility, Elf declares that their mission is to prevent Master from acquiring a new slave. They vow to do everything in their power to ensure that no busty newcomers enter their homes. With determination in their hearts, they pledge to stop at nothing until they succeed, united in their mission to protect their current living situation. As the trio entered the bustling slave market, the atmosphere weighed heavy with despair and resignation. Inumami and the Elf, their senses assaulted by the sights and sounds of human misery, couldn't help but feel a profound sense of dread settle upon them. Each face they passed seemed to bear the weight of shattered dreams and stolen freedom, and the overwhelming despair threatened to suffocate them. For the Inumami and the elf, this was a world starkly different from the one they had known. Once, they had lived lives of relative comfort and freedom. But now, fate had cast them into this grim marketplace where hope seemed a distant memory. Their master, however, appeared unperturbed by the chaos around them. He remained calm and composed in the cacophony, navigating the crowds of buyers and sellers with an air of detached nonchalance. Perplexed by their slaves' unease, the master turned to them and inquired about their discomfort. The elf, her voice tinged with sorrow, remarked that the noise and chaos still overwhelmed her, a stark reminder of the life she had lost. Inumami, clinging to their master's clothing for support, expressed amazement at his composure amidst the turmoil, contrasting sharply with their fear. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the market, the Inumami and the elf found themselves clutching onto their master even tighter, seeking solace and security in his presence. Every step they took felt like a journey into the depths of despair, the very air thick with the stench of suffering and desperation. Their unease only heightened when a friendly shopkeeper approached them, offering a greeting that rang hollow in their ears. Though their master seemed to interpret the gesture as a sign of hospitality, the Inumami and the elf exchanged knowing glances, recognizing the facade for what it truly was. As they stood before the imposing structure of the Emperor's Pavilion, the epicenter of the slave trade, the Inumami and the elf knew that they were merely pawns in a game of power and greed. And though their master may have been oblivious to the true nature of their surroundings, they remained ever vigilant, acutely aware of the dangers that lurked within the shadows of the slave market. Continuing their interaction with the shopkeeper, the elf and the Inumami felt a growing sense of irritation at his brazen demeanor. His crude remarks about the preferences of certain masters grated against their sensibilities, particularly because he made no effort to conceal his words from them. Even if such preferences were true, his lack of discretion only served to further highlight the dehumanizing nature of the slave trade. The shopkeeper, however, seemed unfazed by their discomfort, responding to their irritation with disconcerting patience. He explained matter-of-factly that finding slaves with specific physical attributes, such as large breasts, was indeed a challenge due to their high demand. The elf and the Inumami exchanged incredulous glances, appalled by the callousness with which the shopkeeper discussed such matters. Their master, seemingly oblivious to the underlying implications, engaged the shopkeeper in conversation, expressing surprise at the apparent scarcity of slaves with the desired attributes. With a sly grin, the shopkeeper assured him that not only did he possess such slaves, but they were of the highest quality available in the market. Intrigued by the prospect, their master eagerly accepted the shopkeeper's offer to visit a place where NG vote slaves could be found. NG vote, the shopkeeper explained, granted slaves the rare opportunity to choose their masters, a concept born out of necessity in response to the demands of certain clientele. However, he emphasized that ultimately, the wealth of the potential master often played a more significant role than their character. As their master expressed his desire to explore this unique aspect of the slave market, the shopkeeper provided directions to the NG vote venue, all the while harboring doubts about the master's chances of success. Meanwhile, the elf couldn't shake off a sense of foreboding that had settled over her, a premonition of trouble looming on the horizon. As they departed from the shopkeeper's presence, the elf and the Inumami exchanged uneasy glances, silently dreading the unknown path ahead. Despite their reservations, they remained steadfast in their loyalty to their master, determined to navigate the treacherous waters of the slave market together, whatever challenges may arise. As the shopkeeper ushered their master into the NG vote room, the elf and the Inumami were left outside, their hearts heavy with unease. Though they yearned to accompany their master, the rules of the establishment barred them from entering. All they could do was wait anxiously, their hopes and fears mingling in a tumultuous whirlwind of emotions. Inside the room, their master found himself face to face with a striking figure reclining on a couch. Her name was Succubus Chan, and she exuded an aura of allure and confidence that captivated their master's attention immediately. With her tall stature, ample chest, small wings, and a single tail, she embodied a mesmerizing blend of otherworldly beauty and seductive charm. Succubus Chan's eyes locked on their master, studying his features with a keen interest that sent a shiver down his spine. Her declaration of wanting to become his slave caught him off guard, his discomfort palpable as her intense gaze bore into him. Despite her undeniable appeal, her proximity made him uneasy, his awkwardness betraying his inner turmoil. Meanwhile, the elf and the Inumami watched from the sidelines, their hearts pounding with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. They observed Succubus Chan's bold advances with a mixture of fascination and concern, their instincts warning them of the danger that lurked beneath her enticing facade. Their concern reached a fever pitch when the elf suddenly fainted, overwhelmed by the intensity of the situation. Inumami, her voice tinged with urgency, attempted to rouse her companion, reminding her that their master had yet to finalize any purchases. Their master, taken aback by Succubus Chan's brazen proposition, questioned her motives. Why would someone of her divine beauty and charm choose a life of servitude when she could easily find a wealthy suitor to marry? In response, Succubus Chan's words dripped with sincerity as she confessed her desire to be his devoted slave, craving the rough treatment and wild desires that only he could fulfill. As their master listened to her impassioned plea, the elf and the Inumami could only watch in shock and disbelief. Despite their misgivings, they understood that Succubus Chan's affections ran deep, her unwavering devotion to their master evident in every word she spoke. As they grappled with the implications of her confession, they realized that the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, and their fate was inexorably intertwined with that of their master and his newfound slave. As Succubus Chan drew closer to their master, her provocative question about her body and ample chest sent shockwaves through him, leaving him momentarily speechless and apprehensive. Her keen observation of his gaze, particularly towards her chest, only added to his discomfiture a realization that women were indeed more perceptive than he had previously thought. As the tension mounted between Succubus Chan and their master, the elf and the Inumami's hopes dwindled, their hearts sinking with each passing moment. The sight of their master seemingly succumbing to Succubus Chan's charms filled them with a sense of despair, their fears of being replaced by the alluring succubus intensifying. Succubus Chan, sensing her growing influence over their master, boldly extended an invitation for him to explore her body, a taboo gesture in the confines of the NG vote room where no physical contact was permitted before a purchase was made. Despite the strict rules, their master found himself unable to resist the temptation, his fingers trembling as they reached out to caress her firm, ample chest. The sensation of his touch sent a surge of pleasure coursing through Succubus Chan's veins, her senses tingling with anticipation as she leaned into his embrace. In that fleeting moment, as their master rested his face against her chest, she felt a profound connection forming between them, a bond forged in the heat of desire and longing. But as Succubus Chan basked in the euphoria of their intimate encounter, her gaze flickered towards the window where the elf and the Inumami stood, their eyes burning with fury and resentment. The intensity of their glare struck fear into her heart, a stark reminder of the danger that lurked in the shadows. In a sudden panic, Succubus Chan pushed their master away and retreated to the safety of the shadows, her fear of the elf and the Inumami overwhelming her desire for their master. In that moment of uncertainty, she realized that being with such a fierce master would be a risk of danger and uncertainty, a risk she was unwilling to take. Their master, left bewildered and confused by Succubus Chan's abrupt rejection, could only watch in disbelief as she slipped away, his heart heavy with the sting of rejection. And as the elf and the Inumami looked on, their expressions a mix of relief and triumph, they knew that their bond with their master remained unbroken, their loyalty unwavering in the face of temptation and betrayal. After their master emerged from the NG vote room, crestfallen and dejected from Succubus Chan's rejection, the elf and the Inumami stood by his side, their hearts heavy with empathy. They could sense his sadness and self-doubt, knowing all too well the sting of rejection and the ache of unfulfilled desires. Despite their disappointment at the missed opportunity, they remained steadfast in their loyalty, offering words of encouragement and support to their master. As their master lamented his lack of popularity with girls, the elf and the Anumami reassured him that such setbacks were temporary, and that he would surely find another slave who matched his preferences. With unwavering determination, they pledged to stand by his side, ready to assist him in his search for the perfect companion. Tears of gratitude welled up in their master's eyes as he realized the depth of his slave's devotion and loyalty. In that moment of vulnerability, he found solace in their unwavering support, his spirits buoyed by their unwavering faith in him. With renewed determination, their master vowed to redouble his efforts, determined to prove himself worthy of their loyalty and dedication. And as they walked together, hand in hand, a sense of unity and purpose filled the air, binding them together in a bond stronger than ever before. The elf, eager to lift their master's spirits, suggested a trip to the dungeon to hunt some slime, a suggestion that was met with enthusiasm by the Anumami. As they discussed their plans for the day, a sense of anticipation filled the air, their shared adventure serving as a welcome distraction from the disappointment of the past. Yet, amidst their excitement, a lingering question remained. What had caused Succubus-chan to change her mind? Though they may never know the answer, they were content with the knowledge that their master's happiness was paramount. As they walked side by side, smiles lighting up their faces, they knew that no matter what the future held, they were grateful to be serving a master as kind and compassionate as him. On a sunny day, their master was out in the garden, diligently tending to the soil. The elf observed him with a mixture of curiosity and confusion, puzzled by his actions. She couldn't comprehend what he was doing, so she approached him with a question. "What are you doing, master?" she inquired, her brow furrowed in confusion. Her master, unfazed by her lack of understanding, replied calmly, "I'm farming elf. I thought you might have recognized it from what I was doing." The elf's eyes widened in realization, though her expression still betrayed her disbelief. Farming. It seemed like a foreign concept to her, despite having assisted in fieldwork back in her village. To her, it looked more like a child playing with pitfall traps than actual farming. Her master, sensing her hesitation, explained that the house used to have a garden, and he saw no reason not to make use of it. The elf nodded, gradually coming to appreciate his efforts, though still uncertain about the practicality of it all. As they continued their conversation, her master mentioned having bought some seeds from the market, expecting them to be ready for harvest by the following day. The elf couldn't help but internally chuckle at his naivety. He had no real understanding of farming. Crops didn't magically sprout overnight. The next day, the elf awoke to a wondrous sight. A magnificent tree laden with various fruits. She marveled at its beauty, unable to comprehend how it had appeared seemingly out of nowhere. Beside her, the Anumami shared in her amazement, her heart filled with joy at the sight. Their master soon joined them, a proud smile on his face as he beheld the fruits of his labor. He remarked that it seemed he had raised them well, though the elf couldn't shake off her confusion. How had he managed to achieve such a feat overnight? With a sense of pride, their master revealed his secret. A skill known as growth acceleration, with an impressive rank A active status. This skill allowed him to accelerate the growth of plants, explaining the miraculous appearance of the bountiful tree. The elf was left speechless. Her mind was reeling at the revelation. She had never imagined such a skill existed, let alone that their master possessed it. As she processed this newfound knowledge, a newfound respect for their master blossomed within her, mingling with her admiration for his ingenuity and determination. One sunny morning, Elf-chan and Inumami-chan were nestled together, sound asleep. Inumami's dream whisked her away to a playful scene where their master tickled her, while Elf indulged in a sweet dream where he handed her fluffy cotton candy. In reality, Elf was gently holding onto Inumami's tail as she slept, unknowingly mimicking the sensation of holding the cotton candy in her dream. Suddenly, their peaceful slumber was interrupted by their master's booming voice, as he entered the room. "Rise and shine, you two," their master exclaimed, rousing them from their sleep. Elf, bewildered by the sudden awakening, questioned what was happening, while Inumami, still drowsy, pleaded for just a few more minutes of sleep. Their master's excitement was palpable as he revealed a large box, exclaiming that what they had been waiting for had finally arrived after a long wait. Both Elf and Inumami were immediately intrigued by the contents of the box. Their curiosity piqued, rubbing the sleep from their eyes. They eagerly awaited their master's revelation, eager to uncover the mystery hidden within the box. The master opens the box, with both slaves patiently watching as he reveals its contents. Inside is a maid dress, and he mentions that it has been recommended by the man at the slave trading store. He admits to buying it without much thought. The sight of it reminds Elf of a particular well-endowed slave, prompting Inumami to question why, if it is a maid outfit, it isn't sourced from the storeroom. Master replies that the fabric of this outfit is far superior to the shabby ones typically found there. Elf remarks on Master's awareness of the difference, albeit begrudgingly. Upon Master's instruction, both Inumami and Elf proceed to try on the maid's outfits. The Master is enamored with how they look, eagerly snapping pictures. Elf notes that, compared to their previous attire, the new outfits are soft and comfortable. Inumami adds that it seems Master has taken accurate measurements, as the outfits fit perfectly. Then, Master demands they say, "Welcome home, Master," while wearing the outfits. As expected, both Elf and Inumami lift their skirts slightly, revealing a hint of their legs and underwear, and deliver the phrase with smiles, exuding a seductive aura. The sight is too much for Master. Overwhelmed with arousal, his nose begins to bleed, and he faints to the floor. Inumami and Elf exchange puzzled glances, wondering what has caused their master to collapse. The usual morning trio sits down to breakfast, greeted by a spread of scrambled eggs, blueberry yogurt, roast beef, pancakes, and more. Elf-chan hesitantly asks if it's right for a slave like her to enjoy such a luxurious meal. The master reassures her, saying, "Of course." As Elf eats, she remarks that the meal is delicious, flattering Master with her compliment. Inumami notices Elf's move and decides to sit on the floor with her food. Seeing her on the floor, Master questions what's wrong. Inumami replies that she's simply eating her meal prepared by her master. Master insists that she should sit with them at the same table, and Inumami shows how happy she is to eat with him at the table. Elf, observing all of this, questions herself. "We live under the same roof, don't we?" She realizes that Inumami's decision to eat on the floor was well-planned, a technique published in the slave trading houses as fundamental for pleasing one's master. The act of a slave eating on the floor, while the master allows her to eat at the same table, is meant to make the master happy. In the end, Inumami joins them at the table, and Master pets her head, making her happy. Meanwhile, Elf-chan, feeling a twinge of jealousy, continues eating her meal and reflects on how she receives pets daily, but never feels like it's enough. After the meal, Elf-chan begins washing the dishes, thinking to herself how hopeless her master would be without her. She recalls that she also has to clean the toilet. Someone approaches her from behind, and suddenly, she feels a face against her hips. It's the master. He's enamored with the maid outfits, particularly the garter belt, and she feels ticklish under his touch. Unable to handle it, she instinctively moves her elbow, accidentally hitting the master, causing him to drop to the floor. Elf remembers the strict rule that hitting one's master, even accidentally, is forbidden for a slave. It's punishable by decapitation, with no discussion allowed. She imagines herself being forced into hard labor, exiled, or worse. Worried, she checks on the master to see if he's okay or under stress. Surprisingly, the master reassures her, saying that in his industry, being hit by a beautiful woman in a maid outfit is seen as a reward rather than a punishment. Relieved that she won't be blamed for the accident, Elf still feels guilty that her master has turned into a pervert because of her actions. Despite her conflicted feelings, the master commands her to step on him. She reluctantly complies, lifting her foot to give glimpses of what's underneath the maid's outfit. It's nighttime. An elf is busy hanging clothes out to dry. While working, she asks Master if it's okay not to explore dungeons right now. Master, lying lazily on the sofa and munching on snacks, replies that it's fine. He's financially stable at the moment and feeling lazy. Elf is nearly finished with her work, eager to remove the maid outfit. Meanwhile, Inumami-chan waits for Master on the bed, dressed in her maid outfit. She extends her hand to him, indicating her readiness. Seeing her in the maid outfit excites Master even more, and he eagerly jumps to remove the garter belt, seemingly enthralled by the attire. He's excited to undress her completely, discarding the maid outfit as Inumami ends up in the Master's arms. He tells her that she's irresistible in the outfit. In the next room, Elf sleeps peacefully, unaware of the events unfolding. Elf-chan sleeps peacefully in her room, drifting into a dream world filled with memories from 2 months ago, when she and the other girls were taken as slaves in a cart. In her dream, she vividly recalls comforting her best friend, Bestie-san, who was in tears, weeping and calling out for her mother. Elf-chan gently wipes away Bestie-san's tears, offering her support and encouragement. As Bestie-san rests her head on Elf-chan's lap, Elf-chan reassures her to stay positive, encouraging her to envision a prince who embarks on a journey to find his true love, only to fall deeply in love with a big-eared princess at first sight. Elf-chan suggests that perhaps a wondrous encounter awaits Bestie-san in the Labyrinth City. Observing Elf-chan's serene demeanor and radiant smile, Bestie-san marvels at her strength, wondering how she manages to remain so composed even in such dire circumstances. She contemplates whether Elf-chan's ability to find happiness stems from her resilience, or if the trauma of being sold as a slave has clouded her mind. Despite her worries and uncertainties, Elf-chan continues to uplift Bestie-san, cheering her up and providing a glimmer of hope amidst their shared adversity. After 2 long days of traveling cramped up in the carriage, they finally arrive in the busy city of Blue Tier. Elf-chan and Bestie-san, along with the other captives, feel a mix of relief and nervousness as they're told to get out of the carriage by the rough overseers. Elf-chan feels a spark of hope as she steps onto the cobblestone streets, thinking maybe this city could be a fresh start, a chance to find her fairy tale ending. But her hopes quickly fade when she realizes they're standing in front of a slave trading company. It's not the grand adventure she had hoped for. Instead, it's a grim reminder of their tough situation. Everyone around them is dressed in revealing clothes, and Elf-chan can hear some men making rude comments about the girls. It's a harsh reality check for Elf-chan, and she can't hide her disappointment. Bestie-san notices Elf-chan's sad expression and moves closer to comfort her. But before she can say anything, Elf-chan suddenly collapses to the ground. Bestie-san rushes to her side, worried and confused about what could have caused Elf-chan to faint in this tough situation. The girls brought up in the slave trade industry undergo numerous tests to assess their intelligence and physical capabilities. These assessments are crucial as they determine the girls' value and, subsequently, their fate. In particular, the girls' virginity holds significant importance as it helps maintain their value as products for the slave trade company. Female inspectors are tasked with determining whether the girls are virgins or not, although some companies may disregard this criterion. After enduring a battery of tests, it's time for the girls to be sold. Each girl is assigned a price tag, akin to a collar, further emphasizing their status as a commodity for men's desires. It's a dehumanizing process that Elf-chan and Bestie-san must endure together. In this daunting moment, Elf-chan takes Bestie-san's hand, reaffirming their bond and promising that even if they're separated, she'll always be there for her. Moved by Elf-chan's words, Bestie-san begins to cry, overwhelmed by her friend's strength and grateful for their friendship. Elf-chan, ever the supportive friend, gently encourages Bestie-san to stop crying, knowing that they must face their uncertain futures together with courage and resilience. As the time arrives to assign price tags to the girls, They line up anxiously, each awaiting their fate. Elf Chan stands among them, feeling a mix of anticipation and nervousness. When her price tag is finally affixed, she sees the number. 500,000 call. To Elf Chan, this seems like a decent amount, equivalent to 5 million yen. She feels a sense of relief, believing her value is fair. Curiosity tingles within Elf Chan as she searches for Bestie-san among the girls. When she finally lays eyes on Bestie-san's tag, she's stunned. Bestie-san's price is set at 5 million of the local currency, significantly higher than Elf Chan's. The reason? Bestie-san's ample chest has inflated her worth in the eyes of potential buyers. Elf Chan can't help but feel a pang of jealousy. Her envy spikes as she realizes that Bestie-san's physical attributes have made her more valuable than Elf Chan herself. The realization stings, casting a shadow over their friendship. Feeling a mixture of emotions, Bestie-san turns to Elf Chan and asks if they'll always be friends. This time, Elf Chan hesitates. Caught in the grip of jealousy and insecurity, she responds with uncertainty, saying, "Who knows?" Elf Chan's words hang heavy in the air, betraying the turmoil within her as she grapples with the harsh reality of their circumstances and the fear of being left behind. As all the girls are put on display for the customers, Bestie-san becomes the center of attention due to her exceptional beauty. Elf Chan watches nervously as the men gather around Bestie-san, marveling at the sight of a real elf. Overwhelmed by the stares, Bestie-san seeks refuge with Elf Chan, her trusted friend. Meanwhile, Elf Chan busies herself with assessing the men present as potential customers. She assigns points based on her impressions. A fat man receives 50 points. Another man, who appears average but poor, earns 60 points. And yet another receives a paltry 20 points. Suddenly, a mysterious woman arrives on the scene, drawing everyone's attention. With a hat perched atop her head and long hair cascading down her back, she holds a peculiarly designed stick in her hand. Inquisitive, she queries the men about the situation, prompting them to explain the proceedings. As the men speculate about her identity based on her distinctive attire, Elf Chan's keen eyes catch sight of her, and she can't help but admire the woman's aura of wealth and power. Rumors quickly circulate among the crowd, suggesting that she was none other than Witch-san, a renowned figure from the famed conquest group known for her exceptional abilities. Elf Chan observes as a trader approaches Witch-san, offering his assistance. In response, Witch-san expresses her desire to acquire domestic slaves to alleviate the burden of household chores. The trader discerns her needs and guides her accordingly. Watching Witch-san depart, Elf Chan realizes that this presents a rare opportunity. A chance encounter with someone of such stature may never come again. Intrigued by the possibility of what lies ahead, Elf Chan's mind races with thoughts of the future. The trader sees Witch-san's interest and seizes the opportunity, assuring her that his store has recently acquired new elves, and he won't let her leave empty-handed. With a flourish, he calls forth two slaves, Bestie-san and Elf Chan. Witch-san, lounging on the couch, casts her discerning gaze upon them. As Witch-san surveys the two girls, she makes a silent assessment. She knows that whoever accompanies her must not only be capable, but also possess a certain level of beauty. It's clear to her that Bestie-san fits the bill perfectly. Politely, she asks about Bestie-san's name, and Bestie-san introduces herself with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Pleased with her response, Witch-san declares that Bestie-san will now work for her. Overjoyed, Bestie-san eagerly accepts the offer, feeling honored to be chosen by such a wealthy and influential woman. Meanwhile, Elf Chan, witnessing the exchange, feels a pang of disappointment. Despite her attempts to remain composed, she can't help but speak up, expressing her desire to be purchased as well. Witch-san's gaze shifts to Elf Chan, and she bluntly remarks that Elf Chan lacks attractiveness. Taken aback, Elf Chan tries to salvage the situation by highlighting her affordability, but Witch-san's response is cutting, taunting Elf Chan for her self-deprecating remarks. At that moment, Elf Chan realizes the harsh reality of her situation, the cruel and unforgiving nature of the slave trade industry. Disheartened, she resigns herself to the fate that awaits her, knowing that her journey will be fraught with challenges and hardships. Like, share, and subscribe to find out in the next video. Hit the bell icon to get notified when I upload part 2. See you soon.